Graham, I don't have a song for you this week, mate. I'm so sorry.
Really?
I don't have a song. And look at this. I'm about 2 weeks away from this having to be a podcast with my hair. It's like it's a nightmare.
Well, I am disappointed. I am not a poem or anything, or
nothing. It's a complete blank. So, Graham, mate, this week we're going to be talking about relationship building. We mentioned something about it last week. But I want to go back to that APMP conference that you were talking about last week. Yeah. And I know that the APMP have a model, don't they, that can help people in terms of thinking about the stages of relationship building. Do you want to say a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's super simple and very applicable to any situations. But it's about thinking about where your organization is compared to the customer you're trying to sell to. And the ideal is you get to a favored position with that customer when they trust you, they call you up all the time to get advice and guidance on it. Other end of the scale is they don't know you. They've no idea who you are, they've never heard of you. So getting from this unknown position to a favored position is the goal. And you'd normally go through 2 steps to get there. So you go unknown to a known position. They know your name, they know your brand, they know who you are as an organization. And then you work on that and get into the bit more detail and start speaking to the people, and you you improve your position.
Yeah.
And then once you do that really well and engage with the stakeholders, you then hopefully become favored. So it's a real simple model. I mean, saying it is a lot easier than doing it.
I really like that, Graham. And actually, that plays into something that I mentioned last week, which was John Timperley's relationship model, which comes from a very old book of marketing, but, the oldies are the goodies. And I think that goes into a bit of how you do go about it, really. So if I just put this up now that we can look at it, about what the levels are that you go through in that triangle.
Yeah.
So what you see here is at the bottom, you've got acknowledgement. And that's basically you, Graham, know that a bloke called David Pullen is going to turn up on your screen and you know his name, and that's about it. And the level you go to after that is understanding. And that's really two-way understanding. I have to understand Graham. I have to understand what his needs are, what his pain points are, what he's looking for. And I have to find ways that I can help you really understand who I am, what I'm about, how I can help you, what the benefits are. After that, it goes on to acceptance, because you've accepted that actually, there is a relevance to you. And then beyond that, I usually put a line on that triangle there where we get the respect, the trust, and the bond, because that's usually where the money's made, and it usually happens after the work has commenced. The respect is about, yes, I respect what you do. I've understood your stories about where you've had success before, but I'm seeing you do it with me now. I trust you because you're doing what you've said. And then the bond, which is what everyone wants to go for. That's like nirvana. It's, that's a really rare thing. But if we think about that, Graham, I want to pick apart the levels. There have been many books about the trusted advisor. Everyone talks about the trusted advisor. And like we see on that triangle, that's quite high up the list. And I think we should be thinking more about the understanding advisor. Because if something's going wrong in a relationship, that level of understanding is absolutely the level that you want to keep going back to and feeding time and time again. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that.
Well, that's the most difficult one to break through, isn't it? How do you build that understanding? You can do all the research on the company that you want to, understand the company, but then the people. You need to have the conversation. I mean, how unnatural would it be for me to ask you in our first meeting, great to meet you, David, thanks for your time. Just, take me through some of those pain points and what's keeping you up. I mean, it's just not going to work, is it? So how do you get the ball rolling on that understanding piece? It's quite a tough one, really. And I think that's why, the birth of the Challenger sale, that you share some insights with somebody to get the ball rolling, to nudge something forward. So I'm giving you something to try and get a response from you. I'm testing something with you by sharing you something that shows I know my stuff.
Yeah.
Shows some credibility. So you're like, okay, I've heard of that, I've not heard of that, or whatever. But then it gets you to respond, rather than just me expecting you to open up.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, Graham. I've literally this weekend read a book called Getting Naked, by Patrick Lencioni, which is about, it's a parable, it's a business parable. And one of the things they talk about in there is particularly in consultancy businesses, don't go in and try and sell, go in and consult from the very first meeting. It's like, tell those stories which establish your credibility, tell the stories about where you've done things before, ask the questions which are going to get people's pain out, and not just on a transactional level, but on a relationship level, where you're sort of saying things like, so when did you first notice this happening, rather than can you itemize your pains 1, 2, 3. And I think that daring to do what you do, which is consult right from the very first meeting and tell those stories, is a daring thing to do, and it's something that I would always recommend to my clients. I agree, and I think the thing with this triangle to remember as much as anything is what happens after the sale as well, when that respect and trust and bond starts to happen. Because how many times have we been involved in pitches which have come about purely because somebody's taken their eye off the ball in delivery mode? It's like they've got married and they've forgotten to ever change their socks. It's like, I think that how you actually really think about the delivery, so that you're continually building on that respect, going back to the understanding all the time. Are we still on the same page? I'd really, I think that's see it as a snakes and ladders game. You can work your way up that. You have to work your way up those levels one by one, but you can come back down as well if you don't keep your eye on the ball and just keep feeding that understanding level. That's the fire that needs to be stoked.
Yeah. And the values change, outcomes change that people want. So you've always got to keep asking the question, understanding, and evolving.
Yeah.
To keep going up the ladders and avoiding the snakes. That's the right way around it, isn't it?
I think that's what we want to do, up the ladders and avoid the snakes. Well, Graham, I think I've enjoyed that chat, because I love that APMP model. I love the way that the Timperley's triangle almost fits into it on a personal level, because people, cliche, people buy from people. Yeah. So there we go. That's it for this week, guys. Once again, any questions, we will have another subject for you on connecting and winning next week. And see you then. Keep warm if you're in the snow.
Yeah, see you soon. Thanks all. Cheers.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.